All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. We are going to do something a little bit different, as is given away by the title. But before we jump into that, I do want to just take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, starting with our elite partner, Javier Alazaran. That is the highest tier of subscription over there on YouTube memberships and Patreon. Followed by our partners, who are the next tier of subscription over there. They are Gobolis Inc. and Matt Osgard. And last but not least, our supporters section here, who is a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for being here and the support. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me offset the cost of running this project, the channel, hosting fees, software licenses, things like that. So that is very much appreciated, and thank you for that. And I hope it goes without saying that I appreciate each and every one of you viewers here, whether you're joining me live on the Twitch side or the YouTube side, or if you're just catching the VOD after the fact. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for following along. Without you guys, this project would not exist. All right, so we are going to be handling some different stuff tonight. Different stuff than we've ever actually done on this stream. We've done a little bit of it a long time ago on the YouTube channel for the OGs out there, but we are actually, and you didn't misread the title, we are going to be technically doing a little bit of web dev tonight. And that's because I've been doing a little bit of thinking, and I think it makes sense to write one of our utilities using the browser. A lot of times, it makes sense to use the right tool for the job, right? And so for the engine in the game, that is, using C, obviously, and that has served us well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all of our utilities need to be written in the same way. So this is a game-specific utility. It's only going to ever be used for this game. It's not something I plan on ever releasing, I don't think. I don't see the reason to release it. It's something that's super specific to the development of this game. And so utilities and little things like this tend to be kind of commonplace in the industry, especially even little per project types of scripts or utilities or whatever it happens to be. So what we're going to tackle tonight, we're going to start on it tonight. We're probably going to... this may take more than one stream to actually get through, but we are going to make the item editor essentially as a web page. So we're just going to use raw HTML and JavaScript and maybe a little bit of CSS, just to kind of make things, look a little bit presentable while we're working, right? No fanciness, no animations, none of that kind of crap, right? No frameworks, no dependencies, none of that. We're going to keep it light and simple, but it's going to be, we want to make it easy to use so that we can go ahead and have a way to sort of create and edit our item database as we go. More than likely, this is also going to include, at some point, also for spells, casting spells and stuff like that. It's going to include a database for that as well, I think. So we'll see how that kind of winds up, and if that winds up integrating with this, we might wind up using this utility for other stuff as well. But at least for right now, that's kind of what we're going to be doing, right? And so, like I said, the right tool for the job, I've been thinking about this, and I'm like, yeah, I could pipe this through the engine, right? I could set up all the UI stuff and build all the UI that's going to be required for this in the engine. But, the engine's kind of overkill for what this is, right? We don't really need to use the engine for that. And besides, I also don't want to bring in some other UI framework to do this, right? I don't want to have to use Qt or, heaven forbid, one of the OS specific ones like Win32 or something like that, right? And then have it be tied to a certain platform. We're not going to do any of that. This is just a simple utility. It makes the most sense to just use a browser for this. So I hope that makes sense. And so we're going to go ahead and sort of scaffold that tonight. And we'll see how far we get in terms of development. Sahil over there on the YouTube side, hello. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Good to see you here. All right. Web dev arc is the villain arc. Yeah, I know, right? It's a bit blasphemous, I guess, on this channel, or at least, you would think that, right? But, like, it makes sense when you stop and think about it, right? Mic seems low today. I'm thinking it must be your volume, because I'm like right at I'm actually right at not peaking, but like the mic is pretty hot on this end, I think. So it might be your volume. Does anybody else think that the mic volume is a little bit low? Or if the sound is off otherwise. I'm looking at the levels here and it seems like it's okay, but audio is good on YouTube. Thank you for confirming that. Okay, cool. QT, yeah, I know. Yeah, I definitely don't want to use something like that, right? We're trying to keep from introducing dependencies on this, right? So we're going to keep this light. We're not going to use any web frameworks either, right? Spiro, I know you're going to be disappointed that I'm not using React, but it's not what we're doing. All right. So what we're probably going to do is, since this is a game-specific utility, I think it makes sense to create it at the game level, right? And so we have the Illumina K app here, which is what contains that application, and then the game library here. I don't think it makes sense to create it in either one of those. I think we're going to do a maybe we should do utilities or tools. I guess we could do tools, right? And then in here, we'll go ahead and we'll set up a different folder for this as well. So we'll go ahead and make a directory. What do we want to call this? I guess we don't have to have a clever name for it, right? It's really just, it's like an item editor. I guess we could call it item editor for now. Right, we could just do item editor for now, or item ed, just to make it itemed, right? Just to make it nice and short. All right, and so we're gonna need a couple of different things in here. We're gonna need, so I could do this all in just one HTML file, right? Which is fine, but I think we should probably just go ahead and split this out. So that we've got the structure set up in one file and the JavaScript set up in another file. I'll probably go ahead and just do the CSS inline in the HTML file. So I'll go ahead and do create the HTML file, and then I'll go ahead and call this, I guess, main.js, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Those are the two files that we're going to need. The other thing is, I don't have Live Server installed. So Live Server is basically a node package that you can install that allows you to very quickly and easily run basic web applications. So we don't have to use, npm with a start script or any of that and have to set up all that. I don't want to do any of that either. So I think Live Server should give us everything that we need. So in this case, I'm going to install that globally. So I'm going to do -G, and it's called Live Server. I might have to do a sudo on that. I don't remember. Yeah. Because it's global. There we go. And when I run that, we should now have, let's see, it did not open a new, At least I don't think it did. Did not open a new browser window for me. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just tear one off of this window and move it down here. And we'll do, go ahead and click that guy. And that should. Is that not working for some reason? Right. Okay. So we don't have anything in the index HTML, so we'll go ahead and solve that now. So let's see. I'm going to close everything else, and then we're going to open. Let's see. Actually, I think it's the only index HTML here. So we'll go ahead and open that. Oh, we don't have a language server for this installed. So I don't know how well that's going to work, but we don't really need it. This is just HTML, right? Nothing crazy, right? So we'll go ahead and just block out some logic here. Oops, body. If I can type. And I guess we'll do header as well. Right, and I'll go ahead and also do I'll do that. So at least we've got some basic stuff here. So I'll do HTML body, margin, 0, padding 0. All right. So we've got that, and then the main.js, we'll go ahead and just do a test function here as well. I guess we'll go ahead and just do we'll just do an onload, right? I guess we'll do onloaded, whatever, and we'll do a something stupid for now, just to ensure that we have all the pieces put together. Okay, let's go ahead and split this, and then go back over to here, and here we'll do type is text JavaScript, and then source is going to be main.js. Cool. All right, so now if we switch back to this and reload, let's see. Oh, I didn't actually call the function. So let's just type stuff for now. Have I got something? Oh, this is supposed to be uppercase. Why is my formatter seriously lowercasing that? Oh, that's really annoying. I might have to disable the auto formatter. Oh, that's super annoying. Why is it doing that? All right. Unsubscribing Sparrow, seriously. Is it because I mentioned that you like React? Is that why? Or Python server, no additional depths, cold start on the fingers, yeah. Web page for an item editor is nice. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be the simplest way to go, right? It seems like the right tool for the job. Have you used Laravel? I have not. Nope. Usually find that nice for stuff like this. Yeah, so we're just gonna use just raw HTML and JavaScript, right? We're not gonna use any frameworks for this. It's a very simple utility. I don't want to use any sort of frameworks for this whatsoever. I'm gonna keep it simple. Let's see. What IDE are you using for GLSL shader code? The editor that we use for everything is NeoVim. So I wouldn't call it an IDE per se, but yeah. Let's see. Tried NeoVim, got highlighting to work, but the language server never completed the download with Mason. Curious too how I work with the GLSL files on this NeoVim. Okay, so I don't have actually a specific highlighter for that, although if I did, I certainly could. But I have... Let me see if the bot will work over here tonight on the YouTube side. It's been a little bit iffy. Doesn't look like it wants to. Okay. The bot is being a bit of a bananas today, so let me drop a... Oh, there it goes. Okay. So there is a link to an article with my NeoVim configuration explaining exactly how I set it up. And I guess I can go ahead and drop that over here on the Twitch side as well. Web strikes true and fast. Another victim falls. Yeah, I mean, this is, it's a game-specific utility, so I think it makes sense. It's fair. The tool is always better. Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't want to have to, use a completely different framework just to get this, right? I don't know, though, why this is, lowercasing my doc type. That's really super poopy. I guess I could just do that for now and see if the... Why are we not getting... This is all dark reader stuff. Okay. Do I literally have to do... No. Why is that not... That did say it was starting it on 8080, right? Yep. Loopback IP. Can't be this. Why am I not getting any... Did I do something stupid in here? No. I don't know why my highlighting isn't working correctly here either. It's kind of making me suspicious that maybe I typed something backwards. And maybe my dyslexia has kicked in again. I don't think so, though. I don't see anything wrong with this. Right? It should just be like... We should see stuff, right? And then we literally should just be able to do... Right? That should work. HTML looks legit. Python might be serving the folder in a weird way. The only other thing I can think of is... Did I start it in the right folder? Yeah, I did. Yeah, because there's the two files right there. I did literally just install this package, so maybe there's something not right about it. But yeah, it's like, it's not code injected by live server. Oh, that's got to be for the hot reloading. Wait, but if it found that, I know it's probably because I'm document.writing it, but like that should still show something, right? Like it literally should. Like I could literally just do that. I forget whether you need those or not. Right? And then maybe I could just do like I know you're not supposed to do document.write. That was just a test, but maybe Chrome is being a bananas. So so we can do content, and then inner HTML is equal to that. You know what? Let me turn off Dark Reader for this. Maybe that's messing it up, right? Yes, I know flashbang. So this stuff's showing up, but the body isn't. Have I done something stupid here? That looks legit, right? Like, yeah. Am I missing something? Like, this is super basic stuff. Like, it doesn't really get more basic than that, actually. Like, there's the script. Disable cache. Oh, you know what? It could, yeah, that might be it. I did actually just switch back to Chrome today because Firefox was being a bananas, so that might actually legitimately be it. I have forgotten to do that. But yeah, that's not it either. What am I missing? There's no console errors, right? It's like the onloaded isn't kicking off. Let's see. We want to do verbose. Okay, there's the console log. So why is that coming up? But this isn't showing. What am I missing? It should work. Absolutely, it should work. Wrap it in a tag. I mean, yeah, I shouldn't have to, though. Right? Help me understand this. Like, this is just empty. This is all injected by live server to refresh it, right? So that should be fine. Try it without the... Yes, Spiro, I see you. What is it? Restart your server too? Yeah, I did that too. Yeah. So it's at loop... Oh, wait a minute. I see it. Wait, nope. No, I am on the right port. Wait, did I do something stupid? Wait. You're injecting the entire HTML DOM on top of the existing DOM. Huh? Might be Python doing that, I'm not sure. Look at the inspector console and follow the XML DOM layout. Like, I've done this 1,000 times, it's never been an issue. Maybe this wasn't the right tool for the job. Like, HTML, here's the header, right? That's fine. Here's the body. There's nothing inside of it. There's literally nothing inside of it. Like, I'll bet even if I add something, it'll probably show up, right? See? Look inside the script tag, this. Whoa, what is... Wait, what? Why is that happening? Got to move the script element to the bottom of the body or defer the script. I'm not adding this script though. Like, the only script tag that I have in here is this one. It's not the script tag itself, it's the contents of the script tag. Oh, I see the problem. I used a self-closing tag, and I don't think you can do that with the script tag. That's what it is. That's what it was. I forgot you can't use a self-closing script tag. What a dungus. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, how is it getting that? Walks off into the sunset. Yeah, mic drop. You can tell how much of this I do from scratch all the time. Let's see. HTML and JS are never the right tool for the job. Yeah, but neither is using my game engine to make an item editor. That's definitely not the right tool for the job. Way, way overkill. Okay. Reason number 4,000 why I hate web programming language. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, HTML is so weird about the things that it allows to be self-closing tags and the things that it doesn't. Like, why can't this be a self-closing tag? You know, but an image can be, for example. Makes no sense, but... Yeah, exactly. You can self-close an image tag, but not a script tag. Same with a link. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just super annoying. Anyway, now that we have stupid stuff out of the way, the way that I'm thinking about doing this is essentially we're going to have a file that we read in and write to. And it's going to be the same, essentially the same file. So what I mean by this is, let me actually close some of these other things down because we don't need those. So what we're actually going to wind up having in here is ultimately the file that I'm going to pick up and load on the engine side. But we're also going to use this as sort of our text database file, right? And that's going to be used to load everything into memory here. And then on the engine side, we're going to write a loader that loads this in, and then also converts it to a binary format for later loads. Imagine if XHTML did win, you. Yeah, yeah. Agreed. Only reason I might consider doing the item editor made in my own engine is if you want to render the item and stuff while tinkering. And that, I did think about that, but like, most of the time, I don't really think I'm going to need to do that. I can very easily write an item viewer within the engine and verify it that way. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think this will work just fine for everything we need to do. Okay, so we need to create a file here. I guess I'll call it itemdb.txt, right? And it's going to be a very simple format, right? So we're going to follow sort of the old school INI format. And then each record is essentially going to be a CSV of columns, right? And that's going to make it very easy for us to write out from the JavaScript side, but it'll also make it really easy to read in from the C side. And so, when we get ready to import it later on, once we have figured out all this stuff, it'll be pretty straightforward. So the format that we're going to follow is comments look like that. They start with a pound sign at the beginning, and then each individual item or each individual what we're going to call table in here is going to consist of essentially a name to tell us what the table is or what the next records we're going to read are. So in other words, this might be items, right? And then we'll have the fields here, and then we'll have strings, right? And then fields. And so that was another thing we're going to have to add to our editor too, is our strings, right? And so the strings is actually going to be a little bit different, because strings is actually going to be kind of sub-layered, if you will. So we'll have language, and then maybe we'll say how do we want to do this? I guess en, right? Or we'll say en-us. And then we'll have, the records, and then we'll have, language equals JA for Japanese, right? And then we'll have that, and then we'll have language equals what is the language code for Brazilian Portuguese again? Tammin, you might know this off the top of your head. Let me see. Language code. PTBR. Right. And so, and then that will have its records, right? So thinking about this, we should probably go ahead and set something up in code that kind of looks a little bit like this. And so I'm thinking probably the way to do this is going to be, I guess we can do items first and then we can do strings. Or I guess the strings are going to be pretty straightforward, right? It's really going to be, I think it's just going to be ID. Yeah, it's going to be ID and then value, right? So I guess let's call it localized strings, right? And we're going to do function localized string. For now, we'll just do ID, and then we'll do value. And then this.id equals ID, this.value equals value, and then return this, right? And that will give us our localized string. And then items are going to be a little bit more complicated, right? So items are going to be, how do we want to do this? I guess we'll just do item, right? And that's going to take all kinds of things, right? So it's going to take an ID, it's going to take a name. Actually, let me pull up the Google Doc because we had all of that stuff. Actually, I can get it out of the C file, I believe, now that I think about it. Because we actually determined what all these would look like before. So let's see, didn't we have in types, was it? Yes. So actually we could use, let's see, how should we do this? Should we do, I guess we can use a structure that's kind of like this, right? So an item ID is just gonna be a number, and then we have the name. Let's see, how do we want to store this? We probably want to store this with name string ID, and then description string ID. So I guess we'll model this after the DB item, right? We should do item type cost value weight unique count I think we'll skip use effects for right now. We'll have something to add those instead. Maybe we'll do that on a lot of these things, right? Maybe we'll just have sort of the basic properties here. And then all these special properties, we can just set them as we need, right? So we'll stop at max charge count, I guess. So we'll do use effect ID, use effect string ID, and then max charge count. I guess that's probably good enough right now, right? And then what we can do is we can do this.id equals, right? This.item type equals this.name string ID equals this.description string ID equals this.value, this.weight, this.unique count, this.use effect, forgot the equals there, this.use effect string ID, and then this.max charge count. All right. Was it not going to format that? I guess it doesn't like something I did there. I don't understand why. My formatter is failing me tonight, apparently. All right. Well, anyway. Let's see. Seems like you need a class. I mean, maybe, yeah. I'm kind of rolling it with like old school JavaScript, right? How many years did it take you to complete Kohi? That is an unknown answer because Kohi is not complete yet. We actually still have a lot of different things we need to do in it. Why not JSON? You mean why not JSON for the output file format? Is that what you mean? Because if that's what you mean, then I have to write a JSON parser over on the engine side. And INI files are pretty straightforward, right? Well, I wouldn't need to write a parser on this, right? But I would need to, for this side, that would be true, but for the engine side, it wouldn't be true. So I'm going to have to write a parser one way or the other. And I would rather it be, I'd rather the file format be simple and portable. I'd rather not have to write a JSON parser for my engine, if you know, because I don't plan on using JSON for anything else. Classes in JS essentially just do what you're doing anyways, a function that returns an object. Yeah, which is kind of why I went this direction. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I've missed some YouTube chats. Let me see. Why didn't you use CMake instead of make? Was the reason simplicity or something else? Yes, the reason simplicity and also lack of dependencies. And I'm actually working on eliminating make too. So basically, when I'm by the time this is done, the only dependencies I want is basically Vulkan and the OS specific APIs for like windowing and stuff, and a C compiler, and that's basically it. I don't want a whole bunch of external dependencies. Singy, how's it going? Good to see you. I think you got to add the defer tag to the script or move the script tag to the bottom instead of to the bottom of the head tag. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of the way I've always done it. Oh, this was, man, these messages are old if you guys are talking about the self-closing script tag. Yeah, okay. The script tag does not support auto-closing. That was my error. Yep. Let's see. What are we going to use here? WebGPU? No. So the engine itself is actually written in C. So the plan is we are going to write the item editor using the web, but that's going to generate a flat format database file. I use that term very lightly. That we will then import into our C engine. So it's going to have a super simple parser on that end. And so, yeah, I hope that makes sense. All right. Build a case and parser in JS. That'd be a lot quicker probably to build. Knob.h equivalent. If you're talking about no build, essentially, yeah. It's going to be called kbuild, and actually, it already kind of exists. It's just not ready yet. So yeah, basically I've got a system that's written in C to build C projects. So I took inspiration from no build, but it's not even as complicated as no build. It's actually just going to be super, super simple and super stupid, right? But it eliminates all the need to have like bash scripts and PowerShell scripts for Windows and to have make and all that stuff. Like it eliminates all of that. All right. So I guess what we should probably do. I suppose I should probably start off with setting up some of the other item properties that we have, and we'll go from there. Thank God you stopped on OS specific dependencies, otherwise we'd be witnessing Kohi OS, no doubt. Yeah, I know, right? You know, you joke about that, but I actually considered it seriously at one point. K-assembly. I was like, because I had the thought, and Spiro can attest to this, because I think we BS'd about this one day, maybe on Spiro's stream even. But I was like, you remember the old days where you used to actually you would boot off of like the game floppy disk. I'm talking way back, right? Um, yeah, that's what I was like. Man, it'd be really cool to be able to just have your game also contain the OS like it used to back in the old days, but it would contain like a super slim OS. So like you'd boot the machine off the disk, right? But that, distributing that would be a pain in the ass. So I dumped the idea. But it was kind of a neat thing to think about. I actually did write an OS that was very simple, noped out of that very fast. Yeah, when you start thinking about multi-threading and scheduling and all that stuff, and then GPU, anything GPU, that's a big bunch of nope. Okay. Let's see. So, I guess let's. Should I just null everything out? Maybe we should have that. You know what? Let's add cooldown too. Okay. And so the reason that I've set this up this way, instead of just, using what amounts to a structure, right, is because I do actually want to have member functions with this, to be able to set stuff and have it, kind of reach out and do other stuff that I need it to do. So I do actually have a legitimate reason for that. We should probably set up a little bit of the UI so we at least have something to sort of click around and interact with while we're thinking about this too. So let me go back to before we spec out too much of the data types, right? What I actually want to do is we don't really need this content anymore, I don't think, but I'll leave it there for now. We want, we want an item tab, and we want a strings tab, right? Because we're going to have to edit those items separately. I forgot this closing thing there. Right, so we want, I guess this will say items, and then this will say strings, right? And this is actually, I'm going to do nav up here. We'll do nav up there, and then do content here. Right. And then in content, we're going to have basically something like this again, right? So we're going to have item tab, content, and strings tab, content, right? And I'm just going to put content here for now, just so that we can try that out. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do class equals tab active. And then here I'm going to do a class equals tab content active. And then I'm going to do, I guess actually what we'll do, let's do this. Let's actually do let's do this, right? So we'll have tab content active, and then for this one it'll just be class tab content. And then this will be tab header, and tab header active, and then tab header just for this one, right? And so what the difference will be is up here, we'll have a style for nav. Whoops, that's an ID. And so this is going to be, just your typical display block width 100%, height, I don't know, 30 pixels or something stupid. And then inside of that, we'll go ahead and do tab header, and that's going to be display block again, float left, min width, I don't know, 20 pixels, whatever. And then we'll do margin, I guess we'd want padding, not margin. So padding, I'll just set up, I don't know, like 10 pixels, 5 pixels, something. Doesn't really matter. Just to give us a little bit of spacing there. And then tab header active is just going to have font weight bold, right? And then we'll have tab content. And this one is going to be, again, display block. And we're going to default this one to, actually we want to display this as the display none, right? And for this one, we're going to do, I guess we can just do position absolute. Left 0, right 0, top 0, bottom 0, right? And then overflow auto. And then we need, let's see, content is going to have to be display, or actually position relative. And then min heights, we'll do like 500 pixels or something, right? And then 1 pixel solid black, so we can actually see what the heck we're looking at. And then tab content active is simply going to say display block instead of display none, right? So we'll use that for display. And then here, we can just say on click, right? And then we'll do tab clicked. Oops, tab clicked. And to that, we'll just pass item, right? And then for this one, we'll do an on click as well, but we'll do strings, right? And then that way it'll tell us what actual tab we've clicked, and then we can turn the other ones off. CSS and HTML is all you need. Everything else is bloat. Yep. Better utilize Wasm quick? No, thank you. I don't need to. While I do hate most web dev stuff, I think CSS is pretty neat. Oh no, someone will try to run Doom on Travis's item editor. I mean, I've seen crazier. for sure. Big cats. Like web dev, you're digging yourself deeper and deeper into a deeper and deeper hole. It's funny. Um, is Zen browser being dodgy or is Twitch being dodgy as I just switched your stream from Prime Stream? KDE just froze and I had to open TTY and reboot. That sounds like a driver issue. Writing GPU drivers is for wizards. See, I would love to do that one day, actually, Diamond. That actually sounds like it could be a lot of fun. Although it might also be more fun to pull your fingernails out with pliers. So, I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Let me catch up on chats over on the YouTube side. Engineer, how's it going? Project's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Work in the games industry, not anymore. No, at least not professionally. I do just this now. I do it for myself because I got tired of working 70-hour weeks. So yeah, I don't do it anymore. Let's see. What are we doing with web dev? Is it for websites? Looks of your objects handling seems closer to game features though. Looks like a game UI of some sort. Okay, so what we are actually doing today is quite different than what we normally do, but we are actually developing we're writing an item editor for our RPG that we're making. And rather than piping that entire thing through my game engine and having to write all the UI in that, which would take way longer, we are just simply using a quick web app to do it. And then we're going to essentially write out to a file that my engine can then read in. It just gives us kind of a really easy way of editing our items without having to sort of manually do it because we're going to have thousands of items. Non-codes raiding with a party of 50. Thank you so much for the raid. How are you doing? Shout out definitely to non-codes if you're not following her. Let me do that real quick. Welcome, raiders. How have you been? Hope everything's going well. Boy, do I have an intro for you guys. Because you guys are probably going to be confused looking at this, right? Okay, so just to give a quick intro as to what we're doing here. Let me actually pull up a different tab here. So what we are making, and I know this is going to sound a little bit strange at first, given what's on the screen, but bear with me. So we are making the Kohi game engine, which is a game engine written from scratch using C and then using Vulkan as its initial rendering backend. So the idea is this is supposed to be sort of a educational type of series on a way to build a game engine and ultimately a game, which is now what we're doing, from scratch, right? So in general, we're not using libraries for things, at least not in the runtime. For external tools, that's okay, but for our core runtime, we're writing everything from scratch in C. And so this started off as sort of a YouTube tutorial series. We've morphed it and tried a few different formats and tried a few different things over time, kind of landed on the live stream format, and this seems to work pretty well. So that's what we're doing, and we are live on YouTube and Twitch. And so the game engine itself is free and open source, although it is very, very early days. But it is available here on GitHub. I will actually drop a link in chat. And so it is Apache 2.0 licensed, which means that you can use it for whatever you want, personal or commercial, does not matter. All that I ask is that if you use it, just say you used it. That's literally it. And then, we've got a few different things. These screenshots are a little bit dated at this point, but once we get a little bit further with the game development itself, we'll have some better screenshots to work with. But we have a physically based rendering pipeline with cascading shadow maps, dynamic lighting, all that good stuff. The ability to render UTF-8 text, including different languages. The only thing that we don't really cover is script fonts and right to left rendering yet. One day. And so all of this is here. And basically what we did was we wrote this from scratch. And now we are actually building a game out of it. And so what we're looking at here is obviously not C, right? What we're looking at here is actually web dev, which is a little bit different, or it's a lot different than what we normally do on this channel. But essentially, what we're working on is an editor to create and edit items within the game. As you know, RPGs typically have a lot of items with a lot of different effects and stats and things like that. And I needed a quick way to sort of bang together an editor. Rather than running that either through my game engine, which would be complete overkill, or use some sort of proprietary framework, or like a React or Qt or something like that. We're just going to roll one in raw HTML and JavaScript, and then also using just CSS, no frameworks or anything like that. And so that is what we just started tonight. As you can see, we have not gotten very far with that at all yet, and that's okay. But we are going to build an editor for items from scratch. And the way that this is going to work is it's going to essentially create a flat file database, and I use that term lightly, that we can then bring over to our game engine, and we'll write a parser for that so that we can load all that data up into the game. And be able to access it quickly. And so this will give us a quick way to be able to edit those things without having to pipe all that through the game engine, because that is just more complex than we really need. And so, yeah, I hope that all makes sense. Let me catch up on chat. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Working on my Twitch bot. Nice. How's that coming along, by the way? Holy luck. How's it going? First time chatter. Welcome. Better than a week ago. C extra pog. Yeah. So we normally do C on this channel. Today is actually a little bit of an exception. Vim Diesel. I love the name, by the way. That's hysterical. Welcome. And Vulcan. Yes. Yep. We went the hard way on it for sure. Game engine and C. That is my taste. Awesome. Welcome. Glad you're here. Give a man an engine, he'll make a game. Teach a man to make an engine, he'll be making an engine forever. Confucius. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. Oh, you're done with version 1. Nice. That's awesome. With this downward spiral, he'll be in vibe coding very soon. I refuse, Magets. I will never vibe code. Let's see. Does it still happen in the industry? Overtime, harsh conditions, etc. Depends on the company you work for. In my case, though, yeah, there's lots of overtime for sure. So, done with that. Let's see. Just to be sure, then you're then feeding the inputs to a server, correct? Are you making one in C, or would you use Node? Maybe Go. So, this is a completely offline game. So the way that it's going to work is we're going to have this sort of web UI that we use to edit our items, right? So there'll be like a listing of items that you can choose from, or maybe we'll even add a search in there once we get a decent number of them. And you'll be able to click into that, edit all the fields, save it, and all that stuff. And then you'll be able to export the whole thing to a file that's going to resemble sort of an INI type of format. So we actually started looking at this a little bit in our itemdb.txt. So this is kind of the format that it's going to be. So we're going to have, the format's very simple, right? And the idea is to make this as simple as possible to generate on this side and then parse on the engine side. And then when we go to actually handle this in release, we'll actually take this and convert it to a full binary format that is able to just be essentially jammed into memory as it is and quickly queryable, right? So this version of it, though, is going to be very simple. So it's going to be, we'll basically have a header here that tells us what table we're in. And then we're going to have essentially a CSV within that for each line will be a record, right? And so the columns on all that will be just the individual columns for that particular data type. Starting, of course, with a unique ID that sort of works like an identity in a database where it'll just sort of auto increment. And so the two tables that we're going to have right now are just items, and then we're going to have localized strings be handled by this as well. So one of the things that I want to set up from the get-go from this is I want to have everything localized, or at least have support for localization, right? So any of the runtime strings that we're going to be using in the actual game, item descriptions, item names, any of that stuff, is all going to be localized. And in the beginning, it's probably only going to be English, right? But like a couple of the other languages I know for a fact I want to do are going to be Brazilian Portuguese and Japanese. And so, obviously that's going to require translators because I don't know Brazilian Portuguese at all, and I'm not fluent enough in Japanese to translate it all accurately myself. And so, we're just going to kind of work through the English portion of that for right now. And then, we'll be able to add to them later on as we go. All right, let's see. How about for $1,000 for 1 hour? What, to vibe code? Yeah, I don't, I don't, I don't think I could bring myself to do it even for that. It would literally be too painful. um, Sounds like a spreadsheet job. Please don't accidentally create Google Sheets rival. So we're not going to do anything anywhere near that complicated. The whole idea of this is to be as simple as possible. That's why we're not using any frameworks. We're not using any libraries in JS for this. It's all going to be just raw JS, simple CSS, simple HTML, and we're going to keep it as simple as possible. So it's literally just going to be a table element with a bunch of labels and text boxes and drop downs and stuff. Any weebs speak fluent Japanese in here? Yeah, I know, right, Orshi? I am nowhere near enough, but yeah. Jabasted. That is super funny though. I mean, I suppose if the price was right, but like, yeah, I don't. Everybody has a price, right? How hard would it be to have collapsible rows in HTML, like in a table? Not hard. You just hide the table row. Like it's literally just a TR element that you would hide. Wouldn't be hard at all. And then you'd probably have to hook it up to a, on-click event, or you'd have to hook that up somehow to. You'd have to have a way to unhide it, right? So you'd have to think about design-wise how you'd want to do that. But yeah, like the actual collapsing itself wouldn't be hard. There's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. Isn't that called AI? Shots fired, I know. 16 hours equals 16,000 US. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I could be convinced for the right price, but I don't know what that price would be. All right. Let's see. Yes, but JavaScript has no capability to write into files, if I recall correctly. You'd be correct about that. You might need a server to do it for you using the language, or you're just going to copy the text manually after the inputs have been processed. So even hackier than that. Sometimes low tech is best, right? So the way that this is going to work is it's going to read in the same file that we're writing out, right? So when you go to load this page up, it's going to load in that text file, and it's going to read all the records from it, hold that stuff in memory, and then that's what you're going to select from to be able to edit stuff. And then when you export, it's going to create a file download for you, right? And that you can do in JavaScript easily. And so all we do is when we save that file, we just overwrite the old database file that's sitting in the same directory that was loaded up from, which the browser doesn't even, yeah. And then live server just automatically reloads the page. Boom, done. Simple, right? Then we don't even have to worry about like servers or any of that stuff. It just reads the file. Maybe we could vibe translate some of these localized strings. That could actually be kind of funny, Orshi. That might be funny. You know, maybe I could add Klingon or something in here as a language. Just pondering how I should dump the tree view from my IRC client and use rich text view instead and use HTML to deal with messages. Fair enough. Doesn't sound like a terrible idea to me, but if it wasn't so long, I'd post another Twitter post. Someone was arguing that in order to vibe code effectively, you must understand the nuance. Add a new locale en vibe. That's funny. If you don't, you can't prompt effectively. That's probably me on a regular basis anyways, if we're being completely honest. All right, so tab name. This is also going to be stupidly simple, right? In fact, our hacky freaking state is going to be up here, right? So let's do var state is like this, right? So our state for the application is going to be dirt simple. We're going to have, let's do item tab. Actually, how should we, let me think about this for a second. We should probably even, you know what? I'm going to make it, let's do this. And then in here, we'll actually set this up, right? So we'll do state equals, right? And then we'll move this up here. And so for the state item tab, it's going to be this, right? I don't know why my auto formatter is going bananas on my HTML, but not working over here for JavaScript for some reason. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll do, let's see, we want strings tab. Right, and then we want the content for both of those. So I'm actually just going to move this here and do content for that. Right, so that'll be these. And then whenever we load, I guess we could spit something out to the console. State right, we'll just do that, and then whenever we do tab clicked, right, all we have to do now is say state.item tab dot class name is equal to, and we can actually just do, I think there's a way to actually do multiple of these. I forget exactly what it was though, so I'm just going to use class name for right now. Or I think it's class name. I'll have to double check. But anyways, we want essentially what we have over here. Right? So we can do, instead of that, right? we can map into this and do tab name plus, let's see, I guess we just go with, actually no. Did we do item tab? What did we, yeah. That. Right, so we do state tab name, which would be, in this case, when clicked, would be item, right? So it'd be item plus tab, right? And so that would be state dot item tab right here. And then we just set the class name, right? And so that would be easy enough to do. And then I guess what we could also do is, let's see, how would we loop through those, I guess? I suppose we could set all the other ones to be inactive, I guess, which is kind of hacky, but whatever. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I'm not really concerned with it, right? It's kind of a throwaway utility. So we're just going to do tab. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one, didn't I? I don't want tab content for that. I want tab active. That's the header. Let me fix this real quick. That is actually for the content variant. This one should be tab header. And this one should be tab header active. There we go. Okay. So I guess I could literally just do, oops. I could make this loopable. I'm not really going to worry about it though. So I'll do state dot item tab item tab content class name, and so we basically just don't want, whoops, we don't want the active version of that, right? We just want just the basic ones, right? So we have that one, and then we have strings tab, which I think is what we called it. Yeah, strings tab. All right, so obviously this is terrible and hard-coded, but whatever. It's just a test to see if this actually works, right? So, did we get all the class names right? I think we have. So essentially at this point, I should be able to click those, and we should be able to see. Let's see. Let me find it in my mess of windows here. Right, so we have items content and then strings content. Cool. Simple, right? So now what we can do is we can actually create, within each one of these views, we can just create something simple to be like, here's a list of all the items we have. And then when you select one of those items, it'll bring up sort of a form here that you can start to fill in the properties with, right? So within this, we can actually do, I guess we can do, edit items, right? H2. And I'm not even really concerned about how this looks just yet, right? I'm concerned about getting it to work first. All right, so the other thing that we're going to have is we're going to have like a, let's see, how should we do this? We need two halves of this, right? I'm thinking just a split view down the middle is probably going to be the easiest way to go. So let's set up a sort of a wrapper div, right? And then let's do, I'm just going to do an inline style for this because I don't really care, right? Width, actually, you know what? Let's do width is 100%, and then height is going to be, what did we say the other one was? 500 pixels, right? I guess we'll do min height on that one, right? And then within this, we'll do the width of the left column we'll just say is, I don't know, 150 pixels, whatever. We can adjust it. And then we'll do top 0, left 0, bottom 0, right? And then we want position absolute, right? And that means that this needs to be position relative. Right? Okay. And so we've got that for the left column, right? I got that right? I think I do. And then we'll go ahead and do the right column, which is going to be very similar. The only difference being we're not going to specify width. We want the left now to be 150 pixels and the right to be 0, right? And this is going to be the right column. There we go. Okay, so that works. Nice and simple, right? Any reason you're using a div instead of a table? Not really. I'm actually going to use a table in this right column for all of the properties. So I could have used the table here for sure. Element.classList. That was it. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a bit since I've done this kind of dev. So, it was class list.add and remove. Yeah, that was it. That was what I was looking for. Thank you. So what I want is actually this. Right, so we want to add active to that one, and we want to remove it from everything else, right? So I guess we could just do it, let's see, class list.remove. Let me just add this in here a couple times. And then, let's see, it was going to be tab header active. For these two, whoops, for those. And then, and I do realize, by the way, I'm doing this probably how you would have done it like 15 years ago. Because like, newer CSS stuff, like I haven't kept up on it. So, toggle. Yes, I forgot about toggle. Yep, that's another one. Toggle though, I suppose I could toggle them all. But this is I feel like this is a little bit more explicit, right? So like it removes it from everything and then adds it to the one that it actually should be. I should probably create like an array to simply, you know, loop through these things and remove them that way, right? But like, we're not going to have that many tabs, so I don't really, I'm not really too worried about it. Let's see. New statistics show there's incredibly strong correlation between vibe coders and astrologists. Why did they call it vibe? I don't get that either, to be completely honest. I don't understand it. Class list dot toggle. Yep. Yeah, that is the one I was looking for. Cal says, I get the beard now. I appreciate that. What's funny is every once in a while it annoys me, and I've considered cutting it, but I think I'd rather cut my hair than my beard. Even though my hair is starting to actually get kind of long. All right. So, in the right column, this is where we actually are going to use a table. So, because this is a table of data, so it makes sense to use a table. You don't want to do the thing that you see all over the place where people will take like a whole bunch of divs and nested divs and like use they'll use like flex boxes and stuff to emulate a table when they could just use a table. So, you know, I'm not going to be doing that. We are going to do old school tables here, right? So here's the header. So we are going to have, we're going to say, what do we want to say? Property name and value, right? And that's going to be it, at least for right now. And that's literally how we're going to create all of this stuff. Oh, I need a TR. That's going to be how we set up all of our different stuff. So like ID is not going to be something you can set, right? So although it is something maybe we could display for display purposes, right? So let's change this to TD and we'll say ID, right? And then instead of value, we're going to do inputs type equals text. And then I think it's read only. Or maybe it's disabled. I forget what the property is there. And then we'll obviously set the value, right, when we have it. So for now, I'm just going to put value some ID so that we see something there, right? And so the idea is that we don't want to be able to edit this, but we should be displaying it, right? So let me actually write that out. Yeah, so that'll work. So we have the ID, and then we'll need the item type. So the item type is going to be a select, right? So obviously we don't need this, right? So let's actually do. It's probably going to auto format this on me anyways. And then our item types were. Let's see. This is item effects, which we actually have to talk about that at some point too. Item quality, that is another thing we have to do. Let's see. So item type, right? Let's grab these for reference, right? So for this, I'm just going to go here. And we're just going to do option. And then we'll do, these are going to have to be reversed. Okay, so I guess I'll just do value equals 0, right? And then we'll just do that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, why didn't it give me the... All right, and then we'll change this. Whoops. We'll change this to the end of the line, rather. We'll just do option. Right, so we could do that, that, and that. Right? And so this will coordinate with what we have in the database. And then obviously we will have to set the selected option once we get to that point, right? So there's that. Let me see. First time chatter, welcome by the way. Besides game engine architecture, is there another book you would consider essential? So that depends on what you're looking for. Are you talking about like for game programming specifically, or are you talking about like languages, or because there's a bunch? Like real-time rendering is really good. This book, the one that's got the stormtrooper on the front of it, that's really good for rendering topics. There's also this one, which is Game Physics Engine Development. So I'm actually using this one to study up on game engine physics so that we can eventually do that, but that's another really good one. There's also Real-Time Collision. That's also a really good book.
You forgot to turn on the on-air sign.
Oh, you're right, Tammin. Thank you for the Prime, by the way. There it is. Appreciate that. I dingused it up on that one. All right. Playing through The Last of Us Part 1 after reading Jason's book makes me appreciate it so much more. Yeah, 100%, for sure. Let's see. Are there any other... I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I probably ought to put like a list of books on my website that I could just link to. It's actually not a bad idea. Physics Engine Cookbook is quite dope too. I have not actually read that one. It's on my list of books to read. One of these days. Let's see. Wait a minute. Baguettes. Are you suggesting that I should use VS? Like, why would you suggest that I would use VS? I don't understand. The one text editor that shall not be named. Yeah, this is a family-friendly stream, so we don't, you know. Let's see. My English is suboptimal today. Dude, my English is suboptimal every day, and it's my primary language, okay? All right. To see the webpage, might as well hit the rock bottom. Yeah. You were forced to use it? Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel sorry for you, Nan. But why, though? Why did they force you to use such a browser? Like, that is like... I hope that never happens on this stream, because it'd be like... Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. You guys probably didn't realize I had that effect. I've been looking for an excuse to use it. I should use that more when I do Dingus-oriented programming live, which was earlier today, actually. All right. So, string IDs are an interesting kind of thing, right? Because a string ID is technically a link into a different resource or a different table, right? So, like, when we talk about a string ID, like, really, we would need to come over here to strings to actually see the string, right? So I think it would be neat to maybe have an ID here display that's maybe read-only, but also maybe have a link that could take you to here and pull up that particular string entry, right? Which I think ought to be would actually be kind of neat. You didn't want to config Vim to handle TypeScript? I mean, that's fair enough. I think though, I want to say my NeoVim config that I have public, I think still has TypeScript in it. Let me see. So let me see. I thought I put it. Didn't I put it on here? Yes. Yeah, TypeScript and Vim. So I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that it does still have it. Let me pull this up. Was it TS server? Oh, it looks like I might have some of the stuff disabled, but I still have it in there. But it also might be... Yeah, that's the compiled version. Nope. I guess maybe I don't anymore. I thought I did have it installed. I know the local one I'm using now does not have it. But you could very easily add the LSP to get that support, and it worked pretty well. The only thing is like if you go to use like a framework, it might not work that well. That's the only thing. You might have to install like an additional plugin for that, but yeah. But yeah, if you wanted that, if you wanted this here, there is a link that will take you to this page. And then it'll, you know, there might be something in there about it. Yeah, I hope that helps. I don't remember exactly because I haven't used TypeScript locally on this in quite a while, but I did have it working at one point, so there might be enough in there to get you going with it. All right. So this next one is pretty much going to be almost identical to the ID. So I'm actually just going to copy pasta, that particular row. But we're going to do name string ID, right? And bear in mind, I know I don't have any of these labeled in IDs yet. I'm just kind of thinking how the layout should actually go, right? So we have disabled value, which would be the ID that we set. And then I think right after this, we should probably also let's see, how do I want to do this? I could do a link or I could do a button, I guess. Right, on click equals, whoops, view string ID. You know, and then we pass whatever the string ID happens to be, 90 or whatever, who knows. And then, let's see. The value of the button would be, I guess, view, right? We probably want a non-breaking space in here. Right? So obviously we don't have that yet, so that's going to bleat at me that we don't have it, right? But like my thought is that when you click that button, you'll see the string here. Maybe instead of like storing the ID, maybe we can actually give a preview of it here. I don't know. We'll play around with that. But whatever we do for strings, we should probably just do it consistently across the board, right? So we're going to put a pin in that, and I'll think about it a little bit, and then we'll see kind of where we land on that one. All right, so description string is going to be the same. Oops. Okay, and then so cost is going to be a little bit different. We also want a text box for that, so I'm going to keep this, and then we're going to do cost, and instead of, oops, did I forget to change all of these to, I did, what a dingus. See, this is dingus-oriented programming right here, where we forget to change things. Okay, I'm gonna have to do it manually because if I do a find and replace, it's gonna be too aggressive. All right, these are all TDs. That needs to be a TD. This needs to be a TD, and then all the way down here needs to also be closing TDs, and then these need to be TDs. Okay. Dingus-oriented programming fixed. All right. So we have input type. We're going to go number on this. And then we're going to just default this to 0 for right now. This one's going to be enabled. And then we don't need the button, so we can get rid of that. All right. Perfect. So that is that. Imagine having to write an operating system using only SIMD, floating point, and binary machine code. It sounds terrible. I mean, while you're at it, you could probably just write it in, what's that language called? Brain? You know, this language. You know, which is literally, this is the operator set for the entire language. Imagine writing an OS in that. Active programming is depth first search with endless tangents. I mean, not wrong. Not wrong. You can actually close this window. Don't need that anymore. Okay. So let's see, we left off on cost. Value, I think, is going to be next one, and weight. So these guys are actually going to wind up being... these guys are going to wind up being the same. So I'm actually just going to... I'm going to pasta this in here twice, and we're going to do... Oops. Value and weight. I think numerics do allow decimal places, don't they? Yes. They still increment in like whole numbers, but I guess that's fine. That's a cool quote. Who wrote it? Yeah. Some guy wrote it. Some dude. All right, so unique counts. Unique count is going to be another numeric, thankfully. Nice and simple. So unique counts. So the other thing we might want to do is, before we go too much further with this, we might want to have some sort of maybe a third column with like description text or like a comment, right? Indicating some sort of special thing for that particular field. For example, a unique count of 0 means that you can have unlimited number of that item, right? Only if you set it greater than 0 does it mean that, setting it to 1 means you can only have one item, one of those items in your inventory. 2 means you can have 2, etc. So it might be nice to have a way to sort of note that kind of stuff. So maybe we do that here, and we can call it, I guess, comment, right? Good enough. And so for most of these, we're going to have TD nothing. TD. Right? So we'll have that. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. We'll put another one in here, 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 and here. All right. And then in here, we can just say 0 equals unlimited, greater than or equal to, or I guess greater than 0. Well, I guess just 0 equals unlimited is good enough, right? Let's see. What's the site for? So this is just an item editor that we're making, right? So I'm just kind of laying out the UI now, thinking about how I want it to work, with all of the various properties that items in the game can have. So, I could have gone through and just, kind of made this in the game engine, right? But like for something like this, like it's kind of overkill to do this in the game engine, I think. It'd be much easier to just do it this way, in terms of setting up the logic for it, and the speed at which I can set this up, as well as actually the way that we're going to read and write from the file in the same location. This just kind of lends itself well to that all the way around. Could also add an alt text to the field. That's true, but I think we have enough room to have a comment here, I think. So I think that's okay. Because one thing I've never liked about a lot of UIs out there is how you have to hover to find stuff out. I've never been a huge fan of that. That's one of the reasons why, like in languages like C#, for example, where you can type var on stuff and it just have it figure out the variable by itself. That's great if you're reading it in an IDE and can hover over that. But you have to hover over it to find out what the actual underlying type is. If it's, returning from a function or something. If you're reading that on GitHub, you don't have that context, right? So it's just for reasons like that, I would prefer to display that kind of information here, just because I don't like having to hover to get this kind of context, right? That's just a preference thing, I guess. Can you slap this HTML page into some GUI framework, get a native app that's not an abomination like React or whatever there is now? No. So, I could put it in Electron, but like, then I'm just redistributing Chrome and that's dumb. So literally all you need is something super simple like live server to run this. And again, the only reason I'm doing it this way, and not some other way that's ultra portable or easy to use or whatever, is because this is not a tool that is going to be distributed with the game, right? This tool is not going to be distributed, period. This is just a tool that I'm using internally for development of the game. If a var type is not immediately understood as vibe coding, yeah, there you go. There's an example. Yep. It's bad vibe coding. I use var in C# just to explore a library and using the debugger to help give the... Yeah, okay, I mean, I get what you mean, but like, when you're reading it on GitHub, that's not useful, right? And the place where that comes into play most often is code reviews. And before he makes an XML parser with regex and summons Zalgo, yeah, no, I won't be doing... Well, this might make you laugh, Magets, actually. You're not in before I wrote an XML parser because I have an XML parser written in C on a different branch than Kohi. I already have one. It's not all that robust, but I do actually have one. Insomniac used to build all their tools in the web. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way, especially if it's internal. The other thing I was thinking is... eventually, and this was actually an idea that I got from Naughty Dog, was eventually I'm going to have logging not only write to a local file, but also write to a server that I have internal here. So that way I can actually keep some sort of stats on how often I run into things and whatnot. And that'll just be something I run internally. But it'll allow you to, instead of opening up a huge freaking text file and trying to search through that, you'll be able to have a web interface where you can categorize it and select from it and search it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's, this is not going to be the only thing that we're going to use this way. It's just one thing. What is more native than a native app? Kernel bypass? I mean... that's why I laugh when I hear React Native, and that's all I'm gonna talk about React on here. But yeah, okay. Use effect ID and use effect string ID. Patrick GH3, raiding with a party of 16. Thank you so much for the raid. How are you doing? Welcome, raiders. Let me just give a shout out. What did you get up to on stream tonight? Thank you so much again for the raid. Appreciate that. Just to give a welcome to the raiders really quickly and a very quick brief recap on what we're doing on this channel. We are developing a game engine from scratch using C as the programming language and Vulkan as the initial rendering backend, with planned future support for Metal and DirectX support in the future. It is cross-platform compatible, at least on desktop environments, so Windows, Linux, and Mac OS are all supported right now. And so this is designed to be sort of a educational exercise in how you might build a game engine. It's not the only way to build a game engine. It's not even always the right way to build a game engine. And sometimes we specifically do things wrong or the hard way just to show why that is, right? Or why things don't work. And we're actually going to have a conversation about that sometime soon. Probably not tonight, probably in the next stream. But anyway, so it started off as a tutorial series on YouTube. It changed formats a few times, just trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work. Ultimately, we landed on this live stream format, and this is where we are. The engine itself is open source and free. So it is Apache 2.0 licensed, which means that it is free to use for personal or commercial use. Does not matter. All I ask is that you say that you use it if you do. it is always going to be free of charge. The engine itself will always be open source and will always be free. There will never be any sort of royalties or licensing fees of any kind ever. And that will never change, right? So, where we are on this is, and I should actually probably drop a link to this website so you guys can actually take a look at it. So there's that. And so where we're at now is we've actually been, for the past couple of years, we've been working on the game engine, going through that whole process of creating it, and now we're actually starting to build a game on it. And so now we're actually looking at game-specific tools that we're going to need to build out the game. So the game that we're building is a 3D isometric action RPG. And what we're doing tonight, you'll see that this is notably not C, is we are building a web-based tool, internal tool, to be able to edit items, right? And so, of course, RPGs have lots of items. And so we're building just a small, simple interface here. It's just an internal tool that we're only going to use for this game. And sometimes it's easier to just use the right tool for the job and just go with whatever's simplest, get it stood up so that we can move on. So in this case, we're just, building out a very simple utility here using just raw HTML and straight vanilla JavaScript. Nothing, no fanciness, right? So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here. Let me catch up on comments. Let's see. Doing well is working on a roguelike game in Raylib. Oh, that's super cool. Raylib is a pretty nice library, I think. I really like the way that their API is set up, for sure. He did a good job on that. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't believe that I'm following you, although now I am. So next time you're online and I happen to catch you, I will tune in. Rabbit, first time chat from the Raider. I appreciate that. Welcome. Okay. The browser is probably faster than VGA graphics if it has hardware acceleration instead of the frame buffer. That's true. That's actually true. Yeah. And I do have hardware acceleration turned on technically. Very cool. Thanks for the thorough explanation. Yeah, no problem. Haven't done web pages for development tools before, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so what I was thinking with this, right? Like, I could do this through my game engine, right? We've got UI in there. We don't have all of these UI things written yet because we're writing that whole UI system from scratch. But, text boxes and stuff like that, like, we do have that stuff in our game engine. And I could have done this, but, like, having to boot up the game engine for this is way overkill, right? It's way more complicated than we need for something like this. And we don't need all of this item editing code in the actual runtime, right? We don't need it there. This is going to be thrown away once the game is complete, right? So we really just needed some sort of simple external tool to make the files or the data that we need, export it in a format that we can then just load up really quickly in our engine and be done with it, right? So at the end of the day, all the runtime, the engine as a runtime actually needs to know is the final format that it is worried about when it goes to access this stuff in runtime, right? So the planned workflow for this is to essentially write out what looks like an INI file. And it's going to contain a flat file database of all the items in game, localized strings, which we haven't gotten here yet, but we are going to have multiple language support, localization, all that stuff, and then probably some other types of data too that we haven't thought of yet. So we'll export to that very lightweight file. The engine will be able to import that file, and then it'll probably at that point take that entire structure of data, which will just be a flat structure of data, and essentially bang that out to a binary file, which we can then load into memory as all one big chunk, and it'll be super fast to stand up and load and access. So that's the goal. And then in terms of the actual INA file that this editor will use, it reads the same file in that it exports. So the idea there is that we are running in live server. So every time I make a change to any of the files, this page refreshes. So the idea is that when we export the data from this particular page, that we export to the same file on disk that this website read in, which will cause a page refresh, right? So every time we load up the application, or load up this application, it's going to reread and re-pull all of that data in the file. So every time we export it, this automatically gets the update while it's running. And so we don't have to have some sort of server set up for it. It's just going to be very simple from end to end. So that's kind of what made us go that direction. All right. Have a good one. Well, I definitely understand the raid and run for sure. I do it all the time, so I get you. Thank you again so much for the raid. I appreciate it. And welcome, raiders. Okay. So, I think I have caught up on all of the chat. Perfect. All right. So, we have these fields here. We got up to unique counts. So, use effect ID and use effect string ID. So we can do the string ID, right? We'll just do a copy of this guy for the string ID. But the use effect is going to be something that we have to think about a little bit further. And that's actually something we haven't actually talked about yet. So let me actually just, I guess I can just copy this. And then we'll talk about use effect here in just a second. Okay, so this is going to be use effect ID, and then use effect string ID. Okay. So, yeah, did I do that right? Yes. Okay. So the string ID is pretty self-explanatory, right? This will look into that string table once we set that up for the given language. So the use effect, like what is a use effect, right? So the use effect string is basically just a free text description of what using an item does, right? The effect that it has when you use it. For example, a health potion will restore your health, right? So there will be some sort of string explanation as to how that works. A use effect is going to be essentially a effect that gets called whenever we actually use that item, right? So this is the description of that, and then this is an internal item that effect that gets called, right? And I actually am thinking about renaming this, but essentially what it's going to amount to is it's going to amount to essentially a spell cast is the way I'm thinking of putting this together. So when you use a minor healing potion, it'll do under the hood a spell cast to heal you for, I don't know, 50 health or something like that, right? And so this use effect ID would point to that spell ID, which spells are something we still have to talk about. I've done a little thinking about that offline, but essentially this would point to a spell ID. So instead of use effect, we're probably going to call it like spell ID, and then maybe we'll just have a spell ID, and then we'll this string ID will be part of that spell, right? And then we'll have different cast types of item use or channeled cast or anima cast or whatever that might be. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So I'm going to leave these. I'm going to leave these here as is, and we're going to talk about that once we actually start designing out our spell system and how that's going to work. Because spell system is actually going to wind up. We are going to have it be data driven, but there is going to have to be a code backend to that as well that ties into that, right? So we'll come back to that once we get there. Let's see. Okay, so we have max charge count, which is another thing, and then we have cooldown. So max charge count and cooldown are both numerics. So we can actually just use this. All right. Oh, did it not? Okay. So this is going to be max charge count, and then cooldown. And I'm going to put 0.1 here, right? So for this, oh, you know what? I copied that. 0 equals unlimited, right? Okay, so 0 equals unlimited is true for max charge count, right? If it has unlimited charges, then 0 is the way you indicate that. 0 here equals no cooldown. The cooldown is in seconds, right? So when we talk about cooldown, that is the number of seconds that have to go by after you use that item before you can use that item again. Now, we've put 0.1 here just to indicate that that can use, fractional numbers. It doesn't have to be an integer. Okay. So these are, I think, all of the basic item properties that we're going to want. So what we actually need to do is go to... let's go to the types here. So these are the actual internal types of items as far as the engine itself is concerned, right? So we have that, we have that, we have that. Okay, so these are the other fields. So let's go ahead and grab these. Right, and I'm just going to actually come over here, and I'm going to paste this real quick. It's just a comment, right? And we're going to say additional item type specific properties, right? And so we have equipment classes, equipment slots. And actually that is in here as well. Yeah, so equipment class, right, is... we do support -1 on these two. I wonder if we should maybe have 0 be the null instead. We can change it if we need to. So what we're going to need drop downs for these two things, right? So I'm just going to copy all of this and go back to the HTML, and we're going to put our drop down in here, right? So we have I guess we could do... We're probably going to wind up having to rearrange these properties a little bit to get them to be kind of grouped by how they're actually used, right? So this is going to be, I don't know, for example, we could do call span equals 3. And then in here we can have, let me see, how do I want to word this? Equipment item properties, right? So that's TD there and TR, close that. And so this next one is going to be a drop down, right? So we want to select, so I've already kind of got a select up here. So I'm just going to take this and use this as a template. So I'll put this here. And we're going to say this is going to be equipment class, right? And then what we're essentially going to do is we're just going to get rid of all of this and take all of this and put it here, right? And then I'm just going to do option And I guess I'm going to have to do that, right? Because that's the value that we want. And then change the end of the string option, right? And so we want, I should have put value in here too. I'm going to put value equals 0 all the way down, and then I'm going to change this one to be -1. Okay. All right, so we change here and we do option. All right, and then we have a couple comments in here I'm going to have to fix. Right? So this is just a comment, right? And then this is going to be another comment. There. All right. So that's that. So that's the equipment class. And then we have I'm just going to take another copy of this. And we're going to put this here. And this is going to be equipment slot. Right? And so equipment slot is basically where that item gets equipped. So we don't need that. Oh, this formatted this really weird. Okay. Let me just fix this really quickly. I probably shouldn't have saved that yet. All right. Wow, this auto formatting really went bananas on this, didn't it? Okay. One more. Okay, these don't matter as much. All right, so we want actually all of these. Oops. All of these here. And then same thing as above. So we want option value equals, and again we're just going to say 0 and then close that tag, and then right, so we'll do this. All right, and then we'll actually have to set the IDs, which I know there was a way to actually set these in increasing order, but I don't remember what it is. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it the hard way. Right? So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, and then I also remember that this one was -1. I don't remember what the, I wish I could remember. It'd be super handy right now, but I don't. There's a vim command to actually increment the selected number. Control A, I guess. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so you can actually just do that. That's what it was. HTML, how do we end up writing HTML? Is that for the data editor? Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. Yep. So this is just going to be the quickest way to, the quickest way to get an editor up and running for, what we need, right? So this is the lowest barrier to entry, as it were. G plus Control A. That must have been it. I'll bet that was it. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to try that because I knew it was like a combination of things. That was. I think you're right. So if I do 0 and then do G Control A, that was it. Dang it! I wish I'd thought of that. I wish I could have remembered it. Thank you for that one. I don't use it often enough to have it memorize. I knew there was a way to do it though. It's one of those things that's super handy when you need it. It did start from 1. Yeah, so what I should have done was just go down 1. So G Control A, right? Wait, did it not? Oh, I didn't select. What a dongus. G, Control A. There it is. It only does what you have selected, so. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Okay. So the idea here is that obviously for non-equipment items, right? So weapon is equipable, armor is equipable, right? That would be the only time that these apply. We could do some trickery to like hide these fields unless one of these things is selected. Maybe we'll do that. But it's ignored otherwise, right? So I guess it kind of matters, but it kind of doesn't matter also. Let's see. How are you going to interact with the database, though? You need JS or something. So the way that this is going to work is this is going to write out to a flat file that we then import into the engine. And so this is actually going to read and write from that file, right? So that file will be hosted where this is sitting and being run from. And so there'll be an export button here. And it'll export essentially to a flat file that we can then copy over to the engine and use. So the engine is only going to have read access to this stuff. And I don't think we're going to have much of an item viewer or any of that kind of stuff within the engine. I don't think we need it. The only reason I can think that we would ever need that would be to view what model is associated with an item. But even with that said, we could probably do that here as well if we had to. Is there much use in having the enum prefix for equipment class in the slot in the editor? No, not really. I don't really need it. I just didn't remove it. We could very easily just it was just a lazy copy pasta thing, Right? That's probably a little easier to deal with, right? Yeah, so I mean we could do that here too, I suppose. That's a good point. Again, this is not a tool that I intend on, this is not going to get released. This is just a tool to help me in the dev process set up items. So it's definitely not something that I have to make super carefully or be super concerned about how it works, right? Let's see. I'm not much a web dev, but I didn't know you could have interactable stuff in HTML without JavaScript. You can't. JavaScript powers this. Yeah. As in make it do something like file operations. So you can download files. So the way that we're actually going to use a little bit of trickery to actually make this work. So I don't have this hooked up to actually read the file yet, but the file actually resides. So we have this tools folder in the game directory, right? And we're calling this item ed. And so here's the HTML file. Here is the JavaScript file. And then, this contains all the JavaScript code to run that. And then we have this itemdb text, which is going to have, it's an INI file essentially that has the items here, which will be listed in CSV format. And then it'll have all of the localized strings and whatever other tables we wind up having in here. And all the records will basically be CSV, right? And so the way that this is going to work is the JavaScript is going to read this file that is served along with it, right? So it's on the server, and it's going to read this file in. And then when we go to click the export button, we're going to regenerate that file and download it, right? So you can generate a download link in JavaScript, and you can generate the content of the file that's going to get downloaded. You can do that all in JavaScript. And so what we'll do then is we'll trigger the download of the file, and then the user just needs to save the file in the same, or essentially overwrite this text file that is on the server, right? And that's going to update the database, as it were. And since we're using live server to run this locally, which is just a very basic HTTP server, whenever you change a file, it refreshes this page automatically. So the other benefit we're going to get is every time we do an export and we save and we overwrite that file, this is going to refresh and have all the new data loaded in from that file. So that's the way it's going to work. Yeah, so we don't actually have a server for this. We're just running localhost. So it's not actually, the code is not writing to a direct file. It's just you generate a downloaded file and then you save that downloaded file to the local folder on your machine where this is actually being served from anyways, and it still thinks it's the server. Let's see. You can read and write the file to the OS with JavaScript if you give it permission. No server needed. Yeah, and I don't even need a server to do it this way either, right? I can literally just set my save location to just overwrite this file, and it's the same thing. Yeah, so if you were to actually want to overwrite the file, I would need some sort of server backend, right? I would need like a node backend or something to handle that for me, right? I don't see the need for that when I can literally just download the file and save it into the same location. Then I don't have to worry about having a server set up of any kind anywhere. I can literally just open up the terminal, as I've done here, browse to the folder that contains the thing, right? And then just do live server. This comes up, and I can just download the file right to that folder, and it's done. Let's see. Doesn't matter, it's a tool just to say it's possible. Yes, it is definitely possible. Yeah, I just didn't see the need to do it, right? So I thought IMGUI should have been easier, especially if you're not familiar with web technologies like me. Yeah, so I am familiar enough with this stuff to actually make this work, and this is quicker to do than setting up a whole interface in IMGUI. The other reason I didn't do that is because I don't want all this crap in the engine, right? Like, I want this to be separate. I want this to be external. I don't need all of this editor code in the engine or in the runtime or any of that stuff, or even in my game. It needs to be completely separate. And this gets me away from that. Is this supposed to be simple JavaScript HTML? And it literally says use effect right on the page. You can't hide this. Can't hide this React trickery / joking. Okay, so I will admit my React knowledge as of late is extremely limited. Is use effect something? Is that a React thing? Whoosh! I have a feeling. I think the joke probably went right over my head. If that's a React thing, then I see where you're going with that. But it is okay. Yeah, yeah. We're definitely not using React. But yeah, if that's a React thing, it's use effect ID is the ID of an effect that happens when you use the item. That's funny though. I see where you're going with it. I see what you've done there. Okay. So, okay, bottom line, if you don't want to set up a build system, since it would be a separate project, since you don't want to put in the main project. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to set up a separate build system or a separate server or separate anything. Like, literally the entire item editor is going to be one HTML file and one JavaScript file. And then the database is going to be one text file. And then we're done. Like, that's literally going to be the entire system for this. The editor for it. So it'll be much easier to manage, I think. Putting this through the engine would be complete overkill, in my opinion. The only thing is we'll have one additional step where we import the INI file, right, for lack of a better term, this item DB text. We'll have to import that into the engine and then write out a binary file, but that's easy. We've already parsed INI files in the engine anyway, and we've also parsed CSV files in the engine. So doing that's not going to be hard at all. Okay. So let's see. Equipment slot is the last thing that we left off on. Okay, so we have a equipment effect ID and an effect string ID. So this is going to be somewhat similar to use effect ID, right? So I'm actually going to copy these two guys. And what this is this is an effect that occurs when you equip the item, right? So this is going to be, I'm going to say equip effect ID, right? And then the string ID. So this is going to be, I guess I can add the explanation here. An effect triggered when you equip the item. Right? Did we not? Okay. All right. So we've got that. I guess I don't need this quite so wide there. There we go. All right. So the rest of these are pretty simple, actually, right? So these are the effects that it has when you equip the item in terms of your attributes, right? So I guess we could just put, oops. Let's see. So for this one, we'll put strength effect. And this is going to be a whole number, right? And here we're going to say when equipped, strength attribute is modified by this amount. Okay. So again, that's just kind of an additional equip effect that is separate from this one. So this equip effect is going to be like a buff or a debuff. So like if it's a really good item, maybe it'll give you a buff where maybe it gives you, I don't know, 5 health every 10 seconds or something like that. Versus, if it's a cursed item, maybe it gives you strength, but like maybe it does damage to you over time or something like that. I don't know. So it's, this is more like a buff or a debuff cast when it gets equipped, versus this is directly affects your stats, right? So there's that. So I'm actually just going to paste a couple copies of this in here. And so we need 1 for strength, 1 for agility, 1 for mind, and 1 for, vitality. Right? And that number can be positive or negative. And I realized here I have that marked as a U8. That should actually be an I8. Right? And this is the JavaScript side anyway, so actually it's not that I need to fix. It's going to be in our C types equivalent. So this should be positive or negative. Which means this is also going to have that same problem. All right, so there's that. That would have been a bug. Okay. So we have that. And then min damage, max damage, attack rate. So I think... Yeah, I guess we can keep these as separate fields, right? Min damage, so for weapons, the minimum base damage done on attack. All right, so we have min for that, and then we also have max for that. So this is going to be maximum base damage done on the attack. Okay, so there's that, and then let's see, what else? Attack rate is another thing, right? So this is going to be attack rates, attack rate. And so this is, I'm just going to default this to like 0.1, right? And then this is going to be, how did we define this one? I think it was, I thought we had this one defined. It might be in the Google Doc. I think it is. Get that open. Sorry about the flashbang. Okay. Let's see, I could have swore we had that in here somewhere. Damage times attack rate equals DPS. Yeah, so I think this was like how long in seconds it is, right? I think that's what that was. The delay in seconds between melee attacks. Okay. So there we go. That's attack rate. And then we have additional 0, and we're probably going to have additional other items as well. So for key items, this is going to be like the quest ID that pulls from. For other items, it might be something else. So for right now, I'm just going to plug in a separate item. And I'm going to take, let's see, where was that? I want this. This should probably be in each 3. Right, and then we'll come down here and do this. And then we'll just say additional item properties. And this is going to be, for now, we're going to call it additional 0. Varies by item type, i.e. Key items. This is quest ID, right? Should say 4 key items. Right? So there's that. Okay. Right. That's all of our properties here. The left column eventually is going to be the list of our items. And then, obviously, we still need to figure out how we're going to handle strings. So we should probably look at that. Let's see. U8 is all anyone should ever need. Yeah, I know, right? How do I exit Vim? :Q. That's the neat part. You don't. Yeah, just close the terminal. That's how you get out of it. Or actually, just shut down the computer. That's the best way. U8 is not DLC friendly. 2 to 3 expansions and you'll overflow easily. Yeah. I don't have plans for expansions for this at all. It's going to be a one and done type deal. I don't even think there's going to be I don't think there's going to be a sequel or anything. The only thing that'll ever exist is probably maybe bonus content updates that I might do once or twice, but like it's not going to be like a separate DLC or anything like that. It'll be free updates. It's attacks per second. DPS is damage per second. Oh, did I have that backwards, don't I? In my head. Yeah. This should be you're right. The number of melee attacks per second. Okay. You know what? Let's make this less flashbanging because I just realized like this is flashbanging you guys every single time it comes up. Let's solve that real quick, shall we? So we're gonna set the background color on everything to that, and then we're gonna do the foreground color on everything for all text. I guess we should use like, I want to say that. That's already better. Yes, I could have used Dark Reader, but I'll just make it the right way from the get-go. Elisar, good to see you. How are you doing? How have you been? Should be frequency instead of period. Yeah, that makes sense. Background color of 222 is elite. Use it every time. Yeah, that's one of my go-tos for sure. It just looks good, I think. Okay. I mean, I could style these text boxes later. I'm not going to worry about it now, though. So we probably need to think about, I'm thinking strings probably next. Because we actually need a way to represent strings in here, and then we actually need a way to like click this view button and jump to a string definition. Still too bright for your eyes, Magets. Let's see. I'm good. I'm back from work, about to relax with a little programming before bed. I get that. I feel like non-programmers don't understand how we can code all day and then come home and code. But when you love it, right? It just is what it is. Okay. So strings is going to be vastly simpler than this table here. But there are a couple things that we have to think about when it comes to strings. So since we're going to have localization and we're going to support multiple languages, which we've already talked about in terms of how that's going to be represented for strings, we're essentially going to have this a separate string table per localization, and then we're just going to load the appropriate string table for the active localization. And then you'll be able to switch the localization within the game settings and within the settings of this. I think they should probably both work the same way. So I think what I'm going to do is actually have some sort of like active kind of option up here as to what the actual current locale is. And then we can use that when we're viewing strings to determine which string table to actually look at. So what I can actually do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to come up here to the top where we have stuff. And we're just going to put this in here and we're going to say, how do I want to word this? I guess language, right? And the language is only going to affect what pops up in the strings table, right? I'm not going to bother localizing the tool. That's just dumb. Because I'm going to be the only one ever using it, right? So what did we say in our... I feel like I already have this open. Yeah, I do. Here we go. Strings. So we already have some examples in here, right? So we said that English is going to be language ID 0, Portuguese is going to be ID 1, and then Japanese is going to be ID 2, right? So I guess what we'll probably just do is just do ENUS, ENUS, and then what did I say? Portuguese is 1, right? So we'll do, what is it, PT, was it BZ or BA? I forget already. I thought I had it in here. Do I not have it in here? BR. None of the above. Perfect. This is one of the other reasons I need to actually get it like in here instead of spreadsheets so I can actually have it represented properly. And then Japanese is just JA. Right? And so these line up with what we already have here. Right? So that's perfect. I am going to set the ID of this though to selected language. And then I guess what I can do is on change. I can do change language. I think it's this value is what I'm going to want to use. So let me just comment this out so JavaScript doesn't completely have a meltdown over it. And I'll do change language. And then I'll do value. And we're just going to, for right now, language changed to that. All right. So I can get rid of this one actually. So whenever we change this, we should now see change to 1, change to 2, change to 0. Perfect. All right. So we're going to default to 0. Right? And then we'll go ahead and set state.language equals value. And then from there we can go ahead and refresh the string table. So I guess we'll come to that when we get to it. So the string table, I guess we should probably have something here to represent that, right? An actual object, if you will. So we're going to do, how do we want to do this? I guess locale string, right? And this is going to be ID and value. That's all it has to have. So this ID equals ID. This value equals value. Right? And then return this. And so we'll obviously need to have languages. So languages itself is going to be an array, and it's going to be indexed by the currently selected language, right? And then each one is going to have, I guess I could have an array of each one, right? I guess we could.
I always knew you were secretly a front-end dev. Easy clap.
I mean, thank you for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I do front-end dev sometimes. You know, I do it for work anyways. I have to do it for work. But yeah, I'm forced to use, frameworks and stuff for work, which I hate. But I'm not going to do that here. So you're not wrong, right? But I avoid it when I have to. Or I avoid it when I can, but I use it when I have to, is what I should say. All right. So I guess languages, for this, we're just going to say, do we even need an object here? I think we can actually just do, I think we can literally just do an array of entries, right? So I could do, oh, I already had localized string in here. Why did I do? Yeah, I already had that. I guess I can do new localized string. And I'm just going to hard code some stuff here until we actually get it set up to read from the file. So I guess what was one of the examples that I had here, right? Health potion was the first one. So we'll do this. Health potion, right? And then for the next language, right? it's a little bit different. So the next language is Portuguese, right? So we have that. And then the next language is Japanese. So we have that. Right? And so now we can actually do a lookup into these tables and actually obtain the ID by index, right? Which, we might not want to have it split up like this. We might have it just indexed by ID. I haven't really decided in terms of how it's going to be stored here. We could probably just have the index be the ID and call it a day. But for now, we'll kind of set it up this way and see how that winds up working out. So the next question is, we go to talk about displaying this. Let me find the right dingus window here. There we go. When we want to go talking about displaying strings, here we're going to have like a search in the left column for items. But we'll also have like a scrollable list of items if you wanted to find it that way. I think that probably makes sense. As far as strings go, I don't know if that makes sense, or if we should just have... I suppose we could display a table, right, of like all the strings. Or you should be able to pull them up by ID. And then the other thing is when we actually have an ID here for some use effect or whatever, and we click this view, we should be able to click over to this tab and also set the active string, right? So, so that we can view that. And that is probably going to wind up, well, that is definitely going to wind up being in the next stream because I'm actually out of time for tonight. Thank you for the language codes listing, by the way. BA is a state in Brazil. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. It's like long day of work. Long work day at farm done. Better relax with Farming Simulator 20XX. Yeah, exactly. You've been missing web dev. You can't believe it. Yeah, you have. It's what we've done the entire stream. And we're going to do it tomorrow, actually, too. Are you using vanilla JavaScript? Yes, we are. Yep. No TypeScript, none of that funny business. I thought you made editor apps for C in your work. Didn't realize it was JS. Yeah, no, I don't use C for work, unfortunately. I'd love to, but I don't. I wish. All right. All of that being said, this is where I'm going to have to leave it for tonight, but we are going to pick up tomorrow night where we left off here, and we'll continue our editor tomorrow. So with that said, if you haven't actually followed me at this point, either on the YouTube side or the Twitch side, I would ask that you do. If you are interested, it really helps me grow the channel, and I hope you guys find this content interesting as well. We have a lot of different systems and things like this that we're going to have to develop for this game. Yeah, there's definitely going to be varied content on the stream coming up shortly. It's not all going to be C dev. At some point, we're going to be modeling stuff, making textures, that kind of stuff too. So, anyway, thank you for the follow, by the way. And let me see who I can raid. So let me have a look through the list here. Let's see. So far, I don't actually see much in the world of game dev, actually. Let's see. All right, I think I know who I'm going to raid. I'm just taking one quick second just to kind of have a look at the larger list, you know. All right. Let's head over to I'm debating. Let me see. Do you have a replay channel? This streams to YouTube as well. Yeah. Search field for partial match and full list are a must, otherwise it's going to be hell. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we definitely need powerful search utilities. Don't want to muck around with not having that for sure. Okay. You know what? Um, we were talking about vibe coding, right? So no, I can't do it. I was gonna raid somebody that's vibe coding, but I can't bring myself to do it. I can't do it. Sent this before, you didn't see? I think you might want to see it. Making game with relax vibe check mark. Making games only with vibes X. I agree. Do not do it. Yeah, I'm not going to. I can't. I can't bring myself to do it. I can't bring myself to do it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's raid. Let's raid Hypnotic Games. It looks like he's on BRB though, so hopefully he comes back sometime soon. We'll see. All right. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that, by the way. I want to say a quick thing about this. In UE, you have editor extensions as part of your project. It would not ship with your game, and it would be part of your game project, not the engine, but it would extend the editor. Yes, so that is something that we're definitely thinking about as well. The idea is that we're going to make the editor as part of the game code first, and then when we ship the game, we're going to extract all the good parts of the editor that we built that were game specific, and we're going to generalize them and make them part of the engine, the engine's editor, right? That way, we're not developing stuff we don't need to make the game. All right. So yeah. Anyways, that's gonna do it for tonight. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and following along, and not vibe coding. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next stream tomorrow night. So thank you guys for being here, and I'll catch you later. See ya.